The circle of fifths is like a map that guides musicians to create amazing sounds, but for many, it's like this mysterious symbol that's hard to understand. That's why in this video, I'm going to break it down in simple terms, showing you how you can use it to create incredible music and take your skills to the next level. Before we talk about how you can integrate this tool into your playing, because I am going to show you some really cool chord progressions and some examples, so make sure you stick around to the end. First, we got to talk about what is it. It's just a way of organizing the 12 pitches in sequence of perfect fifths. So at the top of the circle, we start off on C. A perfect fifth interval away from C is G. Another way you can find that it's G is that the C major scale is, and G is the fifth note in the C major scale. G is a perfect fifth interval away from C. A perfect fifth interval away from G would be D. A perfect fifth interval away from D would be A. From A, we would go to E. From E, we would go to B, then F sharp, then D flat, then A flat, then E flat, B flat, F, and then we're back at C. We went clockwise around the circle, and we did that by going in sequence of perfect fifths. If we look at the C major scale, and if we look at the scale that's a perfect fifth interval away from C, which would be G, if we look at the G major scale, the only difference between those two scales is this one note. So in the G major scale, we have F sharp. In the C major scale, we have F. So it's just that note, these two notes. That's the difference. The scale that we've moved to is more and more unrelated to that C major scale. At the top of the circle of fifths, we have C. And the furthest away we can get from the C major scale is at the bottom, which we have F sharp. So we have, that's the furthest we can get away from the C major scale. So basically the circle of fifths organizes the 12 pitches in sequence of perfect fifths, but it also shows you how related keys are to each other. You saw that the C major scale and the G major scale are very closely related. But as we begin to get further and further away from that C major scale, so as we go to D and then A, those keys begin to get more and more unrelated. There's more and more differences between those scales. If we were to look at the inner part of the circle, we would see the minor representation of the major keys. So at the top of the circle, we have C major. Now, if we were to go inside the circle, we would see A minor. A minor is just the relative minor of the C major scale. So after A minor, we have E minor. So A minor scale and E minor scale are very closely related. And we can repeat that same process like we did for the outer part of the circle. I'm going to walk you through 3 ways of how you can use this tool to create really cool chord progressions. The first one is you can use minor 11 chords and go in sequence of perfect fifths. So if we looked at the top of the circle, we start off on C. So if I were to build a C minor 11 chord, now, if I were to go in sequence of perfect fifths or clockwise around the circle, after C minor 11, I could go to, so a perfect fifth interval away from C would be G. So I could go to like a G minor 11. So I have C minor 11, then G minor 11. And then I can go to, after G, a perfect fifth interval away from G would be D. So I could play like a D minor 11. That sounds good. That sounds good. And all I did was I just went in sequence of perfect fifths. So I started off on C, went to G minor 11, and went to D minor 11. And you can create a progression just off of those 3 chords. Feels right. That sounds pretty good. So that's example number 1. Create minor 11 chords, or really just minor chords in general, and go in sequence of perfect fifths and look at the type of cool chord progressions you can create just from doing that. Now, before I talk about example number 2, I want to quickly talk about this new feature that I released in my app Apollo, and it's called practice mode. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the app. So basically all you need to do is just go to practice mode on the home screen right here. And there's 2 modes. You can do solo play or you can do multiplayer. I'm just gonna do solo play for right now. Now, basically what practice mode is just a way for you to test how well you know your chords. So you can choose the number of chords you want to test yourself on. You can also choose the number of minutes you want to give yourself, and then the level of difficulty. So that determines the type of chords you want to test yourself on. So let's just say I want to do the settings I have in here right now. So if I was to go into the actual mode itself, so immediately it gives me a chord that it wants me to play on my actual physical keyboard. So right now it's saying D minor. So if I were to play a D minor chord, it would go to the next chord. So the next one is E major. Next chord would be D flat diminished. Then we have D diminished, D flat major, F minor, A flat augmented, C augmented. So if we were to keep going, so basically in the end, it will tell you how many chords you got right in the time that you gave yourself. Ultimately, this mode will allow you to get better at recalling chords and playing chords really quickly. So yeah, if you haven't tried out this new feature, Apollo, it's available. You can get started for free. I'm gonna provide a link in the description below where you can download the app if you haven't already. For the first example, we went clockwise around the circle. But for the second example, what if we went counterclockwise around the circle? So if you were to look at the circle, going clockwise is going in sequence of perfect fifths, but going counterclockwise is going in sequence of perfect fourths. For the second example, you can create some really cool progressions by going counterclockwise and using major chords. So for example, if I start on F sharp and I play like a F sharp major 7, and if I were to go counterclockwise around the circle, a perfect fourth interval away from F sharp would be B. So what if I played, after this F sharp major 7, what if I played a B major 7? That sounds good. And then after this B major 7, a perfect fourth interval away from B would be E. So what if I play like an E major 9? That sounds good as well. So I got something like, that sounds really good. I just played major chords and I went in sequence of perfect fourths. So basically I went counterclockwise around the circle. So this circle of fifths tool gives you a way to quickly construct these really beautiful chord progressions. For the first example, we went clockwise around the circle. For the second example, we went counterclockwise around the circle. For this last example, what if we did like a mixture of the two? So by that I mean going forwards and backwards on the circle of fifths. We can create some really cool chord progressions. Let me show you. In my progression, I have something like a A alt chord. A perfect fourth interval away from A is D. So what if I play after this A alt? What if I play like a D minor 9? Okay, that works. Now after this D minor 9, if I was to go forward, I have A. That's a perfect fifth interval away from D. So rather than playing a chord on this A, what if I skip that? Because I can totally do that. This is music, you can do whatever you want. Instead of playing a chord on this A, what if I was to play a chord on the note that's a perfect fifth interval away from A, which would be E? So what if I was to play a chord on top of this E? So what if I was to play like a E minor 7? So I got, like that works. Backwards on the circle of fifths, then I went forward on the circle of fifths. I skipped one to get to this E, so now I have E minor 7. After this E minor 7, what if I was to go backwards on the circle of fifths? So a perfect fourth interval away from E is A. So what if I was to play like a A minor 11? That sounds good. So I got here from going backwards on the circle of fifths. I went a perfect fourth interval away. And then the next chord could be like a E minor 7. I went forward on the circle of fifths and I skipped a note. So I skipped this A and went straight to E. That sounds good, that works. And then after E, I go backwards on the circular fifth, so I'll go perfect fourth interval away from E, which would be A. So we got A minor 11. Like, all that sounds good. That sounds good. The circular fifths gives you so much insight into creating progressions that sound really good. In this video, we covered a couple of ways of how you can use it, but there's really endless possibilities. You should definitely experiment with this tool and find what works for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.